Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, let me begin by welcoming all of you to this Arctic Circle Korea Forum, which I believe is by far the most international gathering on the Arctic ever to take place in Asia. It reflects the growing global nature of the Arctic, as well as the engagement of the leading Asian countries in that part of the world. But I also want to take the opportunity here this morning to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Korea, the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, the Maritime Institute, and the Korean Polar Research Institute for their extraordinary constructive cooperation with the Arctic Circle in, first of all, agreeing to host this forum in Seoul, but also through the preparations and the agenda decisions in the previous months. When we launched the Arctic Circle 5 years ago at the National Press Club in Washington, it would have been considered a daring thought that soon on that journey we would arrive in Seoul and host, together with these distinguished ministries and institutions, a preeminent forum on the future of the Arctic, on the science, on the connectivity, on the diplomatic engagement, on the infrastructure, the energy, but above all, a platform for a dialogue between representatives of the Arctic states and the Asian countries. But in the 5 years since the Arctic Circle was founded, it has become truly the most far-reaching international platform on such open dialogue and cooperation on the Arctic. The Assemblies, held every year in Iceland in October, bring together over 2,000 people from between 50 and 60 countries, dealing with all the important aspects of the future of the Arctic. And the forums that started little over 3 years ago in Alaska, and I'm pleased to see my good friend Alice Rogoff, who initiated that together with us at that time, and then moved to Washington, D.C., to Quebec, to Greenland, to Scotland, to the Faroe Islands, and now to Korea, and next year in May to Shanghai in China. When the term the global Arctic was first expressed a few years ago, there were some who doubted the relevance of that concept. But in these gatherings brought together under the framework of the Arctic Circle, both the assemblies and the forums, we see the truth of that concept, that visionary statement that not only is the Arctic important to those who live there, but for the future of the entire planet. And we are gathering here today when representatives of nation states are coming together in Poland to discuss the future of the international cooperation on the climate. So I think there is a strong signal in us meeting here in Korea at about the same time as the nations of the world meet in Poland to map out the future of our cooperation in dealing with the threat of climate change. And we are especially honored here today to have His Excellency Ban Ki-moon, the former Secretary General of the United Nations, with us at the opening of the Arctic Circle Forum in Korea. Not only did he decide throughout his term as Secretary General of the United Nations to make climate change his priority, but he delivered through his leadership and engagement an extraordinary success in the Paris Agreement. And for those efforts, we were honored to present to him in Iceland a few years ago the first Arctic Circle Prize. To thank him on behalf of the Arctic for these efforts and this daring leadership and the success of the Paris Agreement. I think there is no secret that in the early years of his service as Secretary General, there were many who advised him that maybe this was not perhaps such a clever course, because the chance of success was little. And the failure of Copenhagen and the lack of success of the Kyoto Agreement, of course, pointed towards that direction. But Ban Ki-moon had sufficient conviction and persistence to follow not only his own analysis, but also his heart. And for that, sir, we thank you profoundly. We will always, through the Arctic Circle Prize, keep you prominently within the family of the Arctic Circle, and any time you want to come back to the Assembly in Reykjavik, we will be honored to have you there. But it is, of course, a special privilege for us to have you here with us this morning to address the opening session of the Arctic Circle Korea Forum, which, as I said previously, is perhaps the most international of all Arctic gatherings that have taken place in Asia. To some extent, it is true to say that the future of the Arctic will be determined on other continents and in other parts of the world, because the energy system, the pollution, the CO2 eruption will have irrepressible consequences on the future of the Arctic. There is this extraordinary close connection between the future of the Arctic and the future of the planet. So when we come together today and tomorrow and during the following days here in Korea to discuss the various aspects of the Arctic future, we are also discussing the future of our planet. And there are some who ask the question, why are the Asian countries so interested in the Arctic? One obvious reason is that the weather patterns all over Asia, the destruction by extreme weather, the threat of rising sea levels, are perhaps the most urgent and disastrous security threats to this region. And that is why the engagement of scientific institutes from Asia in research on the Arctic has become so important, and will become even more important as we go forward with especially the extraordinary well-equipped research vessels that the Asian countries have created in the last few years. In addition, the communication system, the new sea routes, the connectivity, the infrastructure, and other aspects of not only bringing the different parts of the Arctic together, but linking the Arctic to the rest of the world, are also of paramount importance. But above all, as this forum displays, the constructive dialogue between representatives of the Arctic states and the Asian powers is of crucial importance. And we can here today celebrate that despite conflicts and failures and even wars in other parts of the world, we have so far been able to move forward in the Arctic in a constructive, cooperative, and peaceful way. And our gathering here in Korea, in bringing the dialogue on Asia and the Arctic up front, we are also sending the signal that the Asian countries have an important role in making sure that the success of that constructive, peaceful dialogue and cooperation in the Arctic will indeed continue. That is why I have welcomed in recent years the growing engagement and participation of the Asian countries in the future of the Arctic, because I believe, also with reference to what you have done so far, that you have an extraordinarily important role to play, not only in the future of the Arctic, but through the Arctic in the future of the planet. And with these words, I welcome you again and thank our co-chair and host for this extraordinary cooperation, and invite the other speakers in the opening session to take the floor. Thank you.